Power of Prayer. I'm Teresa Gross, and I'm just a guest host for Gloria Fountain today. And she's taking a break in April to just kind of get some rest and rejuvenation. And so she asked if I would come on and just be the guest host. And so I'm honored and privileged that she would allow me to do that. And so I hope that today's show will just bring great enlightenment, great inspiration, and great truth to your life about who God is and about the Word of God. And we do believe in the power of prayer. Prayer is powerful. It changes situations. It changes what's going on in your life. It changes your heart. And it keeps your focus on God, who He is the one who has to do what has to be done. He's the one that has the power. We just get connected with Him in prayer and in submission and obedience, and He guides us through those things in our lives that we need His help with. And so today I have a really good friend of mine, Phil Patrick. Hey, Phil.
Hi, Teresa.
He's going to come on, and he has a ministry. What's the name of the ministry?
Renewal and Resource Ministry.
For you and your wife. It's a
Yes.
brand new ministry.
Shannon.
So kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, it is Renewal and Resource Ministry. Our goal is to reach out to those who have been broken and have gone through tough times in their life and need to be restored. We want to renew them, revive them, restore, and help them be placed back in ministry. And part of the goal is to reach out to ministers even who have gone through difficult times or possibly a failure, and they have nowhere to go. They don't know who to talk to, and they need help. We also have a counseling ministry that helps them with that as well. So we want to renew, restore, revive, put them back in ministry.
Awesome.
And help them continue on with the
And
things
I
that
think
God's
God
called
really
them
likes
to do.
that too. I think He wants people restored. That's part of what Jesus died on the cross for,
Right.
is restoration. So do you go to other churches and speak?
We do.
People
Yeah.
contact you?
As often as possible, we go and where we're invited and speak, and we've been to prisons, we've been to churches. We would love to do marriage conferences as well, and we do marriage counseling, premarital counseling, grief counseling, anything you might need. We are pastors, and we love people, and we just want to help. And it's you can contact us again at renewal and resource at gmail.com.
Awesome. So that's renewal and resource at gmail.com.
That's correct.
Awesome. And your wife's name?
Shannon,
Shannon
my
Patrick.
beautiful wife.
Okay. And you are kind of still honeymooning a little bit.
We
Haven't been married that
are.
long.
We were married last August.
All right. There you go.
Still a happy man. I'm smiling still.
I know. I think it's awesome because I know your wife. You should be smiling.
I am.
So today we're just going to talk about, we talked a little bit before we started the show that, in our lives, there are so many times that we are surrounded. And so you're going to kind of bring out today a story of King Sisera. Is that right?
Well, it's a king of Syria who has
Syria.
come against the king of Israel.
Okay. All right. So why don't you just go ahead and start, Phil? And we know that you're going to have a great lesson about how God is with us when we're surrounded.
Right. In 2 Kings chapter 6, the king of Syria was attacking the king of Israel, and they were at war. And every time the king of Syria would make plans as to where he would be, there was a prophet by the name of Elisha who would hear from God where that king was going to be, warn the king of Israel not to go there. And that happened on several occasions. And finally, the king of Syria became very angry and said, I want to know who is against us in our own camp and who is our spy. And so he would send out that report. And finally, the people came back and said, it's not among us. That person isn't. They are out somewhere else, and his name is Elisha. He is a prophet in Israel. And he's telling the secrets even of your own bedroom.
So they knew it was Elisha.
They knew it was Elisha. And so the king of Syria said, where is he? And they said, he is in Dothan. So by night, he sent his army to go in and surround the city. And the next morning when they woke up, the army of Syria had surrounded Elisha and that town and was ready to take him by force if necessary. And when the servant of Elisha walked out the next morning and he looked out, and there were this huge army of chariots and horses surrounding them, and he was afraid. He walked back in and said, Master, there are chariots and horses everywhere. What are we going to do? Elisha just simply said, Lord, open his eyes. And when he did, the servant looked back out, and he saw beyond the king of Syria's army, he saw the army of the living God. And there were chariots of fire and horses all around their enemy. And the point I want to make is many times in life, we go through difficult times. It could be illness. It could be family, friends at work, or coworkers, or just situations that become very oppressive, and we wonder what we're going to do. The key I want to make is, or the point I want to make is that we are never alone. Even in the middle of our battles, our toughest times, we are not by ourselves. The Lord is there with us. Not only is He by our side, but He has sent His armies to surround our enemy. Now we know that many times our enemy is unseen. It's a satanic force. It is spiritual. And we have a hard time combating that because we can't put a name or a face. We can't exactly explain it to anyone. We don't know how to say, this is what's going on, but I'm feeling that and I know it's there. I just can't see it. We need to know that God is there with us and that His army is surrounding our enemy. And we also know that God's army is far greater than that of Satan, that any oppressive spirit that may come against us, God is greater than that. And He has far more of His warriors than Satan has of his.
Right. So in this story, like how did God's armies take Dothan, the enemy?
Well, it's a very unique story because once Elisha prayed and said, Lord, open his eyes, he looked out and saw all these chariots of fire and horses and realized it was God's army. And Elisha then turned and said, Lord, blind the army. So all the men of Syria were blinded at that moment, as if there were scales on their eyes. And then he led them all the way to the king of Israel, to Samaria, where the king of Israel was, led them into his camp.
So he had some prisoners.
He did. He led the entire army there. And then he said, Lord, open their eyes. So the men's eyes were open, the scales as if they fell off, and they realized we have been taken captive by the king of Israel, led here by Elisha the prophet. And now the king of Israel, he got pretty excited. And he said, Father, do we kill them? And he didn't say it once, he said it twice. Do we kill them? He was pretty excited that at one moment here, I can wipe out all of the forces that are against us, our enemy. But Elisha said something very unique to him. He said, no. He said, if you were to take someone captive, would you kill them? No, we wouldn't do that. He said, so prepare food, feed them, give them food, and give them drink. Refresh them, and then send them home.
Send them home.
Send them home.
So what did we take from that story in our lives?
Well, the end of that story, the last verse of that chapter says that the Syrian army, the raiding parties came no more into Israel, under that particular king at least. And so the war was over.
So no more surrounding, no more enemies.
No more enemies. So the point of that is, many times when God delivers us, brings us out of that oppressive moment that we're in, whether it be illness or whatever, or even co-workers, or situation with family, people who may have hurt us during the process. Many times our instinct is to get even.
Oh, yeah.
We want to get back at them. We want to make sure they hurt like we hurt. That's not God's way. That's what Elisha was saying to the king of Syria. I brought them here to show you that God is powerful enough to deliver your enemies into your hands, but you're to refresh them, you're to feed them, you're to give them drink, and send them home and trust God. So that's what he did. So when we sometimes see those who have oppressed us, that have hurt us, many times later on we'll see them hurting.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And we're not to laugh at that. We're not to try to get even. We're not to try to promote that in any way whatsoever. What we are to do is say, Lord, bless them. And how can I bless those who hurt me? If I need to take them to lunch, I will. If I need to pray for them, in fact, I should pray for them, that God help them in their tough time. So we're not to try to get even. We're not trying to hurt anyone. We're to trust God that He will see us through, and that everything that we're going through is for a purpose. He will show us that purpose later on, and then He will give us all the direction we need to walk through it, come out of it, and then turn and help others in the process.
Okay, so when we're talking about being being bombarded and surrounded by the enemy, what is the heart position we should take? Because, I mean, there are times when you have to rise up and
Right.
stand and go, no, this is enough. Or then there are times God says, no, just rest. I'm going to take care of it.
Right.
Stand still and see that I'm God. So a lot of it is the relationship we have with the Lord. And in that
Right.
season, what is he saying?
It's according to situations, of course. In this case, Elisha did something. He prayed, Lord, close their eyes, blind them. So they were blinded, and then they were led captive to the king of Israel. Now, that's part of it. The other part is making sure that our heart is right. And what he was trying to teach the king of Israel is that if you will trust God, if you will place this in his hands and not try to take vengeance upon these men brought to you, if you will release them, let them go home, if you will refresh them on their way, then I will take care of this. It closes out that the raiding parties came no more. So the act of kindness ended the war. Many times there are people who were angry with us, coming against us, people that we're not in agreement with, but one act of kindness can change the entire situation.
Yeah, something like what the golden rule, do unto others
That's
as you
right.
would have them do unto
Right.
you. But I think when we're surrounded, it's not quite about like doing the golden rule.
No, it isn't.
It's
We
more,
want it
it's like survival. Help me, dear Jesus.
right. And listen, what I'm saying is easily said. It's more difficult to live it out, and I know that.
So give me a story in your life that you think, just that you felt surrounded and you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that God brought you out,
Okay,
or destroyed your enemies, or something to that effect.
right. Many people know that I've been through a divorce, and when that was all going on, I found myself in a motel room alone. And every day, and for almost 4 months, I was there by myself. And every day I would come in very broken. People were whispering in my ear, you should do this, you should do that, you should get even, you should, all of these things.
Right.
And I had to bring that to God and go, I don't want to be that way. I don't want to be that man that tries to hurt or get even with anything. And it wasn't necessarily the spouse that was doing things. Other people get involved, and they create more problems.
People just like to do that.
They just like to get into other people's business, don't
They
they?
do. They want to have a say in that, and they're like, no.
So many of the people that knew me would whisper in my ear, "You need to do this. You need to do that. You need to make sure you take care of yourself and protect yourself and all of these things." But what I found was in my brokenness, alone in that motel room, I fell on God. I fell in his presence, and every night I would weep and cry myself to sleep, weeping before him and asking God to give me a pure heart and help me do what's right, no matter what others were telling me, to not try to get even, not try to take advantage of anyone, just do what's right for me. And he showed me the best way. I did things that others did not approve of. I went beyond what I was supposed to do or should have done in giving back, and far beyond when others didn't like it. And I said, but I have to live with this. I have to go to sleep at night knowing that either I pleased God today or I didn't.
Right.
I want to know that 10 years from now, I can look back and go, while it may have taken from me, I am far better off because I did the right thing. I wasn't completely innocent in all of those things, I promise you. I deserved a lot of it. However, when you get to that place of brokenness, you have to say, God, help my heart to be right.
Okay, so just to those that are watching, kind of give them an idea when you say brokenness. Because, people, it's not a 21st century cultural thing about brokenness. It's fend for myself,
Right.
Selfies all the time,
Right.
all about me. So what would brokenness be?
Well, many times, if you're referring to Facebook and other social media outlets, most of the time people put the best out.
Oh,
But once in a while, you can see that there's been a change and a shift in something that's taken place, and they're hurting. A brokenness means going through a marital difficulty, perhaps even a diagnosis physically that scares you. It brings you to a point of, dear God, what am I going to do? It was a shock to your system. And you wonder, how will I see this through? God, there's so many promises you've given to me. How will they ever be fulfilled? And you become broken inside, and you're scared. That's one of the things. Another thing is going through a time when perhaps your children are going through hard times, and they're not behaving the way you would like for them to, living a different lifestyle than you would like to see them live, that would bring them more peace if they would just trust God. And you're broken over it. There's hardship. That's what I'm talking about, brokenness in our lives today. A hardship, a pain that's caused us to just become deeply broken inside, and to cry out to God and want Him to see us through that.
And I'm just thinking it in my head, when it comes to this brokenness, and you were talking about in your situation in the hotel and hearing the whispers of the people that said do this, do that. I'm very well aware of when you are surrounded, it's very important that you begin to take those thoughts captive.
That's right. Absolutely.
Because what does the thought do once you grab hold of that thought and you run with it, and not to God, but run with your feelings, your emotions, just the moment of it, or just the sheer weight of what you're surrounded with, and you take those thoughts and those little whispers, and you feed on it, and when you feed on it, it grows.
Yes, it does. And if you allow it to stay very long, we can't always control what we think when it comes.
Right.
Because all kinds of situations are happening in our life, and we're hearing others talk, and we're seeing it on television. So there are thoughts coming constantly. But if it's a thought that isn't going to do us any good, or that will perhaps harm someone else, then we need to take that thought captive. And basically, even if we have to say it out loud, you know what? No. I am not going down that road.
Right.
And I've done that before. There were times when it just kept coming, and I finally out loud said, no, I will not think that. I will not let my thoughts go that direction. And you rein them in, because if you don't, it seeps down into your heart. Once it gets into your heart, it begins to create a disease called unforgiveness. And after a while, you are the one that's in trouble, not the other person.
And just with those thoughts, taking them captive, if you don't, then it does allow your heart to be swayed.
Yes, it does.
Towards what would not be beneficial to yourself, and it hurts your relationship with the Lord. Right. Because there's that little wall keeps getting built up higher and higher, and I know it's because we are human, and when we go through horrible situations, it is so easy, if we're not truly staying broken before the Lord and trusting Him. It's just easy to go down that road, because you're having people around you whisper, "Oh, you don't deserve that. Right. Stand up for yourself."
That's what I was told. You need to do this. You need to do that. And I would go before the Lord with that, and my own tenderness before Him. And there were times I had to fight that. I tell you, I wanted to listen and do what they were telling me, but I had to fight it and go, no, that's not who I am. That's not who God created me to be. I'm going to be different. And I would pray, Lord, what is your will? What would you do in this situation? What's best for me, and to get the best outcome of this? And He would give me that.
And really, in that situation with being surrounded in Elisha, seeing that there was an army besides the enemy, I think sometimes it's us seeing through the eyes of faith, through the eyes of God's love and His perspective. And that takes being in that, we say it so flippantly, but, let's have a relationship with the Lord. But relationship takes trust. Relationship takes spending time. Right. So as you were broken and you were spending that time with the Lord, He was, really, that was all you had.
That's all I had. It became that He was enough. And I would drive around at times, going from place to place, taking care of any business that I was shopping or whatever. And I can remember clearly driving and saying, God, you are enough, out loud. You are enough. I am lonely. I am hurting. I'm desperate for you. You have to be enough. I've declared it through the years, but now I have to live this out. You are enough.
And during that time, you had gone through a stroke.
So shortly thereafter,
physical.
Well, shortly thereafter, I had a stroke.
Okay.
And I had to walk through that entire process all over again to keep my mind right,
Right.
to not get too far down to where I couldn't come out, because one of the side effects, literally, from a stroke is there is depression that comes along with that at a later date that you're unaware of. And suddenly you go, why am I feeling this way? And I needed help. I needed to go to therapy and get some help to help me understand what was going on. Sometimes you need to reach out.
Oh, I think so. And I think sometimes as just humans, we tend to think, oh, I'll fight this myself.
Right.
I don't really need any help. But I think in situations, especially like that, when you had got a hit,
Right.
a hard hit, and gotten some sense of stability, and then got hit again,
Right.
that was just the time to say, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
Yes, I have the Lord, but He has provided doctors, therapists,
Right.
counselors, even mentors that you had in your life,
Yes.
and people that loved you.
Absolutely. And they came along my side, helped me get through it. I listened to those who were wanting to help and give me the good advice to take care of myself, and I did that and was able to come through it. It wasn't easy, but once again, I had to learn to trust Him. It was as if some legs just kept getting knocked out from under me, and I thought after the divorce and all of that, finally recovering, I'm feeling better. I think I'm going to live. I'm going to go on with my life. Yeah. And I remember saying that one morning. I got up and I think I'm going to live, and I'm going to go on with life. And not long thereafter, I had the stroke, and it set me back one more time. And I thought I had lost it all before, but no, this time I lost my job, I lost my home, I lost my income, I lost everything. Had to move in with family.
Oh, wow.
Because I could no longer take care of myself, and there was quite a long period there that I needed to be with other people, and it just took me down. My pride was destroyed. I mean, it was all God or nothing.
I know, and like you said, it's easy to say, trust the Lord.
Right.
And it's easy to say, well, I took those thoughts and I said, no, this is not me, this is not you. And in that walking out with the Lord, and the ultimate is the love walk, in those times He's saying to you, let me teach you, let me let you know that I love you.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't feel good, and it doesn't feel like love.
No.
But my ways, my intentions towards you are good. They're for hope and for a future.
Yeah.
And, we don't understand life because it gets so hard, but I know that we can trust the Lord.
Yes.
And even though, and I know, a little bit about the divorce and all that stuff, it was the hardest, or one of the hardest things you walked through, and you would never, ever want to walk through that again.
No.
But you would not take the relationship you have with the Lord.
No, because it changed everything with me. It out of that, it created literally a new man. I'm not the man I used to be. I'm different. I'm better. I am more focused on Him, and I know what He did for me. I know how He came along my side, and I know what He promised all the way through. And He took care of me when at times I didn't think I could take another day or even another breath.
Right.
Many times I would have to just get up and walk outside during work day and cry and just say, God, I need you. You are my breath right now. And He did see me through. In the middle of all of that, sometimes we need to be just like Elisha, in that all this is happening and we feel like sometimes we just can't hardly breathe. And we wonder, God, how am I going to get through this day? What we needed to pray is exactly what Elisha prayed. Lord, open my eyes. All I see is the enemy. All I see is the oppression. All I see is the illness. All I see is the divorce. All I see are my children going a different direction that I ever hoped and dreamed they would.
Right.
And it's hurting me. All I can see are the troubles that are surrounding me today. And I'm asking you to open my eyes and let me see you.
That's
Help
a great
me,
prayer.
help
That's
me
a
see
great prayer.
beyond all that I'm facing and see you. Because if we can't see Him, then we're going to feel as if we're hopeless. And He will do exactly what Elisha did. Or for Elisha and his servant, He will open our eyes. And He will
And
help
He might
us
put some
see
scales on those other people's
He
eyes.
just might do that. And He will open our eyes, and He will help us to see Him in a way that we've never seen Him before, never known Him before. At the end of Job's trial and testing, he cried out and he said, I thought I knew you before. I knew about you, but now I know you. I truly know
And that
you.
really is a part of, for myself even, in the journeys, the hardships I've walked through, that's the very thing that you come away with. If you're staying broken before the Lord is,
Right.
I would not have known you.
Right.
I would not have known you unless I had walked that out.
Listen, I don't believe for a moment that God was in favor of me going through divorce or
Oh,
he
no.
intended that. No, it was circumstances in life that came along that just it broke it all apart, and that wasn't what God intended. But through that he came alongside, and he was there with me, and he taught me a new way to live. He taught me to trust him in ways that I'd never been able to trust him before.
But never had to trust him.
Never had to. And through that, I am stronger. I am better. I'm more equipped today than ever before to handle whatever life may face at me. And trust me, it still comes.
Yes. But that's why it's so unique, the ministry God's called you and Shannon to.
Right.
Renewal.
And resource. And we want to renew, revive, and restore those who have been broken, those who have gone through hard times.
Because you can
times.
identify with that.
Listen, I don't just say this because I've read the Word or I've had a few difficult days. No, I say this because I've lived through hell and back. I've gone through it several times, more than I wanted to.
You got the T-shirt.
I've got T-shirts to prove it. I know what I'm talking about. I know what it's like to want to throw up your hands and go, I'm done.
And losing everything. I mean, there are people out there watching that they know, they can identify with, I've lost everything.
Right, right.
Through addiction, through not good choices.
Exactly.
Just through illness and
Right.
just have lost everything. And so I appreciate you coming on the program. And I know Miss Gloria is going to, hopefully she can find a way to find a church that you and Shannon can come and speak at, because you have
We
so
would
much
love
to
to.
give, Phil. So much to give. And you don't know his wife, Shannon, but she's pretty amazing. She's one of my bestest friends. And so I've kind of walked alongside with her and her brokenness. And so, together, God is just going to take that ministry
Yeah, we believe that.
and just help people have life again.
Right.
And God is all about life. So let me reassure you today, wherever you find yourself, know that you can hang on to God, even if it's your little pinky, and you're hanging on with dear life. He is your Savior. He is your Lord. He is your restorer. He is the glory and lifter of your head. And His mercies are new every morning. And great is His faithfulness. And His intention toward you is for hope and for a future. And so I know as you go through your week, hopefully something He said about the enemy will click with you and remind you that you may be surrounded, but you're also surrounded by God's angels and by God's love. So go this week and have a blessed week.